Hi there. Welcome to another session of the Sound of Love conference. Now we have Holly Beatty. Hi, Holly.
Hi,
Welcome, welcome.
thank you.
So here's a quote from Holly. Power is not found by forcing ourselves, but rather by finding ourselves. If you want to improve the state of your being and the state of the world, you've got to go on a journey of empowerment that begins with opening your heart, embodying your soul, and freeing your spirit. Love is the power that transforms all fear and awakens all of life. Holly Beatty. Holly is a spirit initiated shaman, songwriter, and storyteller. She's the founder of the International Joyful Warrior Shaman School. She specializes in personal and soul retrieval services, hands on somatic repattering for those suffering from chronic pain or trauma in to reestablish physical alignment with one's original spiritual blueprint. And she enjoys leading collective healing retreats and gatherings in places of power and beauty to bring people and the planet into natural greater balance. For nearly 20 years, she has worked as a shamanic healer, teacher, and coach, as well as a masterful guide for people who would like to become shamans. She lives in Fairfax, California, and you can get 25% off Holly's first album, Shamanic Music, at hollybeatty.bandcamp.com with discount code GLOBE. That would be us, GLOBE. Welcome, welcome. What have you been up to lately?
Well, actually, I've been starting to work a lot with Globe.
What are you doing with GLOBE?
Well, we are having a really great time looking at how to bring sound education to the youth population, prenatal and at home with toddlers and all the way K through 12. So we've been collaborating on ideas for this. It's been very exciting. It's how we kind of got more connected, you and I. And also, I'm just expanding my experience learning how to play instruments beyond the drum. So
Oh, yeah.
grateful
Cool.
to you for that.
Cool. Yeah, I have to tell you, it's just in the last month, there's this guy, Len, that we're working with, that shows up at the door and says, "Oh, I've been spent 40 years actually getting a curriculum for kids to read in schools." And he just went through a Buddhist retreat and got that he should help people. And so he's been mentoring me and helping with the whole thing as to how to get the our curriculum into schools big time. So then Holly shows up the next week and it's like, oh my God, don't really have to get out of bed around here. And it's just, and Holly's already had her school, so it's this incredible collaboration to change the whole educational system on the planet.
It really is. It's so inspiring to be a part of this vision, this process. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so here's the big question. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do to help people on the planet?
Well, it's funny that you asked me this question because I actually asked it of myself. You know, uh, it was, I think I've had the thought several times, but several years ago, it was about 2015, I was driving in a shopping center parking lot, and I don't know why. I had just passed the Jamba Juice. I was on my way to Urban Jacks, and I thought to myself, Holly, if you had all the money in the world right now, what would you do? And at the time, I had a yoga studio and a shamanic healing center, a shaman school. So I thought to myself first, well, I would just do more of what I'm doing. But then, actually, there was another voice that came through, and it said, I would sing. I would sing. I would sing, and I would sing as though the angels were singing through me. And I would put myself in the position to do that because there's something very unassuming where people put their guard down when you're singing, and there's a lot less resistance. And when we sing, we can elevate consciousness. And what I'd like to see is humanity elevating their consciousness to an extent where we're all able to bring heaven to earth through our hearts. So that's brought me to singing.
I have to say, I've heard that we have to bring Earth to heaven.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a marriage, I think, in the whole um, experience where both heaven and earth have to, sit a little closer to each other.
I know you've done a song for that. That's
Yes, you're.
cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool. Okay, so tell us what
Hmm.
we're going to be talking about today.
Well, we're talking about today the shaman's territory, which is kind of an interesting umbrella. Um, but I think that a lot of people are interested in shamanism. Not a lot of people are really intimately understanding what it is. And so we were talking about maybe having a conversation along those lines. And also, I think somebody, you, um, might be able to receive a shamanic soul healing.
Oh
And
boy, oh
um,
boy, oh boy.
so we're gonna do a little bit of drumming and singing and soul healing.
Cool. So how did you get started?
Well, yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? Um, well, it's hard to know whether or not to tell you that the real uh, lifting off story for me, or the breadcrumbs that led me to that. Um, I feel like I'd like to share with you just a little bit of a breadcrumb from my early days. So, I am a spirit initiated shaman, and there's every initiation really is a self initiation on some level. But there comes a time when we are receiving direction, and we are choosing whether or not we're going to follow. And in my work that I've created, the shaman school, I always teach sincerity must be shown. So, who would talk to you or give you guidance unless you're listening? And I think all of us receive really wise and important guidance in our lives. And um, a lot of times we just sort of shirk it off as, not something that we have to pay attention to, not something that we have to follow, that we can choose what we think in our maybe more egoic mind, or lesser mind, what we want to do or what we think we should do. And so this story is about a moment in my life where I realized that I needed to be listening to something that was from a higher guidance. Uh, so, in this story, I am 13, and I've just entered seventh grade. And just to know a little bit about me, from about 9 years old to this time, 13, I I was in a gang. I lived in a ghetto. I was kind of living in the hood, you could say. And I um, wasn't raised that way originally, but due to parental divorce and falling out, and my parents at that time needing to focus on themselves, there was a lot of unsupervised time. And I had an older sister who led me into, you could say, young debauchery. um, Going late at night to schools and parks, and drinking, and also some heavier drugs. And of course, this was always a time that, when I remember it, was full of sort of some wild feral cat feeling activity, in such a way for a child it was sort of free, but also it was a really scary time without a lot of the parental guidance and nurturing that we all need at that age. So Anyways, I was sort of being led astray. And I began to enjoy, I think enjoy is the wrong word, but I began to feel like it was a good thing that I was doing methamphetamines, speed. And the reason why, mostly for me as a young girl, was I wanted to be skinny, and girls are kind of competitive, and maybe I wasn't as skinny as some of the other girls, and I realized that if I had um, methamphetamines that I wouldn't want to eat and I would be skinny. So this was sort of a thing that was happening for me, sixth grade, the summer of sixth grade and the beginning of seventh grade. So one day, I got super, super sick, and my mom didn't really know what was wrong. And I had just been on speed for maybe 3 or 4 days straight. And, but I just told her I had the flu. And so she took me to my grandmother's house. Um, and at my grandparents, I proceeded to like be feverish and having that feeling when you're so sick that you just don't even want to be alive. You feel so sick, when you do have the flu really bad or something. And I was feeling that way. My grandmother, she didn't really know what to do or what was wrong. She handed me a 7 Up and she said to take a bath. So I'm in the bath, and all of a sudden, I feel these what looks like inside my mind as wings wrap around me. And in my mind's eye, I see a large white bird. And all of a sudden, the fever fades. And I remember going from having the chills to feeling completely calm. And then I heard a voice, and it said, "Holly, don't go home." And I could feel the weight of what it was telling me, this voice. It was saying, don't put yourself in that environment anymore. I also knew that my grandparents' house was someplace I could stay, but they were very strict. And that if I stayed there, I would have to like, my grandfather was a pilot in World War II, and so that military strictness, although it was very nice, not overly strict, but just not anywhere near the feralness of my mom's house. So she was a flower child and sort of rebelled, from that structure. So I said, okay, to the voice inside. And that was the first time I listened, and I really have never stopped listening because it saved my life and it brought me to a place where I, if I didn't know which way to go, I always knew I could go within and I would be guided in the right direction. So I never did any um, drugs like that again. I just, uh, I just never did, and I had to experience my mom coming and saying, let's go, you're feeling better, and saying to her, sorry, I can't, I can't leave, I can't go. And that was really challenging because this is beautiful, but I was just trying to, make it a little less. Um, because there also was a bit of abandonment from me that she felt, or lack of support or love. And she's one of my best friends now, but for a while I had to also pull myself away from environment and influences, or just put myself in an environment that would give me what it was that I was really needing. And this is also something that's helped me be a great life coach, because a lot of times when we are looking to move our life from where we happen to be to happiness, true happiness, we really need to be willing to um, sort of change our orbit. maybe where we're living or how we're letting our life be guided. And I learned that really young. But I also learned at that same moment that there was an inner voice in my heart, and also from the Great Spirit that could guide me and speak to me if I was willing to show sincerity and really listen.
Cool. You know, it's interesting. I often think of spirit coming when you're peaceful, when you finally get still.
Yeah.
But I think spirit also comes when you're in a crisis, when you're, really needing help. So you may not be that peaceful and still at all, actually. Right? Maybe you're really fragile. And I hadn't thought about that.
The sun is really having its way with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay.
It looks kind of cool, at least.
Well, I think that uh, we can receive guidance in many ways. I I like to say that there's a moment where you can move from what you happen to be doing, how you happen to be living, how you happen to be raised, or what has happened to influence you, into happiness by choosing um, to move through the windows of opportunity that give your life greater meaning. And sometimes that comes from following a guidance at a gentle time where you're listening and you're avoiding pitfalls or challenges ahead of time. And other times it comes when you need it most. Maybe you're not in the wrong place at all. Maybe it's a moment of your greatest opening and awakening that you're meant to go through. But there's something there with you. You're not alone.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I used to kind of beg for guidance. And because I didn't have too much, I would get, downloads and ideas and thoughts here and there. And in the last couple of years, ever since I had a little transformation, there's, now it's like always there. And I think that's because I am so much more peaceful in my own body. I'm, just done a lot of work at really, letting go of stuff, of course, and just, being at peace. I'm kind of lucky. I'm in the field of sound healing, so it's like I go teach classes and I come home peaceful, right? So,
But even that didn't happen by accident. You
yeah,
curated that. You curated your life
right.
so that that would be a center, a focal point for you and how you would carry yourself. And um, I think that I've really worked to do that too, where I've listened on the path to those ways of orienting myself to work and to relationships, to finances, um, that maybe are not always the easiest choices because they require maybe a more narrow pathway for me working as a shaman, um, and working in healing, working with very high integrity. And at the same time, there's this grace that goes underneath you. You probably, experience where it's like I sort of feel like it's an escalator. Sometimes I actually see it as a large snake because I see things demonically that's under my feet. That's sort of like bringing me through everything. But it's definitely like surfing a current that I can fall away from if I try to push forward through what I think I should do instead of listening and just staying in the conversation between my own heart and the spirit, the guidance that wants to come through, and also other people's, like honoring others as well, and finding the yes and between two hearts or many hearts.
It's interesting. The big shift for me, uh, you might actually move
I
it
know.
so it's
I'm
pointed
just
back
gonna,
towards the other corner a little bit. There you
I'm
go.
just gonna
Cool.
turn
Cool.
it.
Oh,
I,
there you go. That might help. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Uh, so the interesting thing is, you know, it's it's for me. Been a lot about trust and just trusting that it's all taken care of. And I used to always think about that, and I just, okay, I got to trust that it's all going to be okay. And but then about 2 years ago, after my transformation, where the Hathors kind of showed up and I started working with me, then it was like it just became the norm to trust, and I completely relaxed. And when I relaxed, I got more guidance, right? So it's really about just knowing it's all taken care of. I mean, you still gotta, as you say, you still gotta guide you. I mean, you can't just like say, okay, I'm just gonna go do nothing or do. You gotta guide your life so it doesn't fall apart. But then you start getting more guidance, and so it's like there's this time of working it up and getting it organized enough so you're not stressed out, so spirit can actually come. It's kind of like that.
the name of this workshop is the shaman's territory. And working within the shaman's realm, within the spiritual realm. I mean, the shaman's territory is the spiritual realm. It's also this realm, and there's a teaching in that. But in shaman training, one of the first most essential uh, inner development, skill development, is discernment, and it's developed this discernment of what it is that you're meeting, um, what consciousness you're coming into connection with. Because in the spiritual realm, um, you don't what shows up to you in a vision in a visual way, it's not always what it is. So something can appear as one thing, but it's not that thing. It's not that person. It's not. And so the only way to really know what you're connecting with, or what's connecting with you or coming towards you, is not to see with your inner vision, with the visual, but actually through your heart, by tasting what it is with your heart. And when you taste with your heart, you will get a very clear um, visual that will be different sometimes than what your eyes or even your third eye or mind's eye will see, because your heart is telling you what it really is or who it really is. And
What's an example of some treatment you were doing where something showed up and you're like, whoa, and then you go, ah,
well, um, maybe a good example to give you is there's a movie called What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr. And in that movie, his daughter um, it comes to him as Cuba Gooding Jr. For the longest time in that movie, this beautiful black man is coming to him as a guide, and he doesn't learn till a very long time into this being his guide, that it's not his best friend that he had in his life. It's actually his daughter, but she's showing up as his best friend because that's the way that he in his consciousness could be most open. And there was a dynamic, a story between him and his daughter that may have gotten in the way of him being receptive to the guidance, right? So this is something that happens quite often where benevolent beings will come and they will show up as somebody that you know, but they're not really that person. It also happens when working with beings that actually want to do harm to people,
Mm.
where they will come and they will show up as somebody that's trusted to elicit a certain effect, but they're really guiding the person in a direction that is not good for them, not healthy, not whole. So when you're working uh, as a shaman, you have to be able to discern what something is. And I say taste, but really it comes from touch, and it arrives as a vibration, and that vibration rises to the level of inner sight and taste and discernment. Like being able to pick out like the wheat from the mold and the finest grains of something to be able to know. And it comes from frequency and vibration, which really is consciousness. So any being that's coming will have a consciousness, and it will have a song because the song is coming from the composite of its consciousness, and it is itself, which means it's not someone else. So if if for example, um a being comes and it's not a nice being, but it's dressed as my daughter, what I would do is I would feel for the registration of the soul of my daughter because I know it. I know it by heart, right? And if it's my daughter, I'll know it's a match because it's coming not from what I see, but from what I feel, perceive, taste, and know. And I will be able to see through it if that's not her. Now, if a little fairy came into my dream, say I'm dreaming at night, and there's a little fairy dancing around, I'm like, oh, I'm conscious in the dream. I'm like, what's this fairy doing here? And then all of a sudden, I feel this little zzz feeling of its consciousness, its vibration, its little soul song, and there's my daughter, and she's coming as a little fairy to say hello, right? So consciousness is not bound by form. And when you work in the world of the shaman, you're not working with visualization, although it can be visual. You're working with the discernment of what something is through vibrational resonance and recognition. And that's also why it takes kind of a long time to develop true skill, because you have to go in enough in that experience to develop this discernment. But the biggest discernment that you can develop right away is just yes or no, this or that. So you may not know what it is, but you can know, is this affinity? Do I go forward? Is this for my highest good, the highest good of all beings? Or is this like no? And if it's a no, it doesn't even mean that it's bad or hurtful. It could just mean not this way, not right now. Not right now, not this path, not right now. So so you learn to discern, and then you learn to trust that without doubt. You learn
How
to
do you
trust how it feels without doubt.
how do you get better at discernment?
Well, I mean, how you to get better at anything, you have trial and error. So sometimes you're accurate and sometimes you're not. But you also you get shown what things are by the guidance that draws you forward into the experience that's seeking to teach you. So, like for example, really early on, we can get to my shaman initiation story and but really early on when I started working as a shaman, I had a lot of I had a lot to learn. And on this one experience, I was invited to go to a organic farm that had a community center on it. And I thought, wonderful. And they wanted to have some shamanic journeying, like a gentle meditation. So I went and I just started the workshop, and I just did the workshop within um, the normal way I would do it, which has had respect and prayer involved. But I didn't realize that the ground that we were on was actual burial grounds for Native Americans. Um, I didn't know that, and I didn't ask. I hadn't learned yet to always ask permission and to always wait and connect with the spirits of the land before you start um, anything really that you're
Ceremony.
doing. You always want to ask, and you want to get permission, and you want to get protection from the spirits of the land. But I didn't go to workshops and training, so I was learning the hard way. And so at night, when I went home that night, I was visited by two of the spirits from that land. And let's just say they gave me a schooling. Um, it was actually quite frightening. They were angry. They were protectors, and so they were sort of doing what indigenous protectors would do with letting me know I had crossed a line that was not okay. And the way that I moved through that experience was well, at one point I was being hit in the vision. So I was actually being physically hit in the vision. And the way that I got out of it actually was I couldn't wake myself up, and a skunk came under my house and started clawing under the floorboards of the room I was in. And they woke me up. And as soon as I woke up, I started singing my soul song, which we can come back to, because I knew that that was the quickest way to align myself with grace and to pull myself back into um, protection with my guides. And my greatest guide is a Native American elder chief. So I was calling him to me, and they were kind of taking it a little too far. But what I remembered from that experience was two things that were like never left me. One was the feeling in the back of my throat that came from the anger that the spirit was holding. The way it registered in my body, the body is an instrument of perception, is going to be different than how it would be registered in someone else's body. But for me, it stuck as this feeling of a like a lockjaw feeling in the back of my throat. And so if I meet a spirit or something, an elemental being that has this feeling and my throat starts to feel that way, I will know that there is an element of anger within the consciousness that has arrived. And my body will tell me that because I learned that. So it's a highway that I traveled, and I'll know right away, okay, there's anger here. And then the other thing I learned is that uh, the feeling that comes when you ask for permission, and then the spirits they read your heart like it's very transparent, and they nod, and then they step back and they create like a frame of protection. So instead of there being an engagement of conflict, there's a there's like a mutual respect of elders And then there's a stepping back and a holding space for grace to come through, because that's the goal anyways. And so, um, I don't know how that totally answers your question, but that's some real experience. So the answer really is you learn by being guided towards things, and you learn the hard way, and all of it is somatic. It's all somatic, and it's all somatic memory. It's like the first time you drive a road you've never been on, you go slow, especially if it's dark and it's raining. But if you've been on that road a lot, even when it's dark and raining, you can go there really quick, or you can feel your way through it fairly smoothly, because it's also inside of you as a memory.
Right.
And that's how it works too.
It's interesting. My friend Bev in Mount Shasta, she said, just got to be still enough to hear
Yeah, and you've got to be brave enough to stick with it.
it.
Because
Uh-huh.
we're learning something. We're not just like, you know, there's work to do in the world. And so we're learning how to bring love into it, and that includes learning how to respect what's here. Um, so,
So tell us about your initiation.
right, thank you. Um, so I was 33, and I was recently divorced, and I had been for about 6 months doing something that was really just unbidden, that came from my not knowing what else to do. I was sad. I was scared. I had been married 10 years, and I had a 5-year old and a 2.5-year-old. And so every night, about 4 p.m., I would sit myself right in front of this window, where I could see the sun begin to go down. And I was kind of living on a hill with a big picture window. And so I just would watch the sun go down, and I would cry. And I would pray. And a prayer started to develop, same mantra over and over. And I was praying that something warm and holy from the sun's own light would take up residence in my heart. So at the time, was feeling frozen and numb and afraid. And I didn't know what else to do but just do this. So I did. And I just did this every day for about 6 months, until one day I sat down to pray in this way as I had been, and I didn't feel I didn't feel like crying. I felt done. I felt done with that process of grieving in that way, and so I laid down, and I took a nap about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Um, and right away, I was in a wooded circle. Well, there was a circle of pine trees around me, and I was sitting down, and there was a bonfire, a small bonfire, where I was sitting on one side, and there was a Native American chief sitting across from me. And he had slick black hair, very dark features, no shirt on, and a bear claw necklace. And he looked at me like, one of those looks that pierces right through you. And he said, "Now, Holly, stop playing the fool." And I say it like that because it sounded like that. It sounded like he had some sort of accent, and like he was Sean Connery in Seven or something. It was very powerful. It was like penetrating. And it had feeling tone. Feeling tone came through. So he he was saying something that was causing me to focus in a particular way, and it had a particular feeling tone. And then, in the smoke of the flames between us, I started seeing my life and every frame of my life from the time before I was born. And at first, I was just watching it, and then I was in it, and I was watching myself watch it, and I was in it at the same time. And then I began to notice something. So in every frame of my life, I was feeling something that was different from the way that I was acting. Since about 3 years old, maybe five onward, almost every moment of my life. So something would be going on. Like, for example, this is a fun one to remember. I was at my 5-year-old birthday party, and there was everybody happy. We were at a ice cream parlor, and I had this little ice cream cone that looked like a clown in front of me, and I should be happy. Everybody else has it. There's licorice. I remember being happy about the licorice that was everywhere. But I wasn't really happy. I was actually really mad. I was really angry. And I was angry because there was this boy that lived across the street that hadn't been invited, and he always teased me, and I didn't like him, and I was really mad that my parents invited him, and I didn't want him to be there. So I'm pretending like I'm happy and having a good time, but the whole time I can't stop being seething angry that that kid is there. Right. So I noticed that I'm not sharing this anger with everybody. I'm just sharing happiness, right? Another image that sticks with me is when my grandmother passed away, I wasn't feeling sad. I was relieved that she had passed on because it was her time. But many people in the church were crying and carrying on and sad. And so I was too. I was crying and I was, participating. But I was completely peaceful inside. I didn't feel it at all. And so what I realized through all of these visuals is that I was pretending most of the time to feel like everybody else around me felt so that I would be included and feel a part of things and feel loved. And so I realized that I was pretending who I was. And then when I kind of got this feeling, um, s- I realized that there was another awareness watching all of these moments of experience. There was another awareness within the consciousness. So there was me that was sitting watching it. There was me in it having the experience, having the two different emotions. And then there was another presence that was just sort of like bliss and patient and witnessing. And it was the first time ever that I actually felt myself, how I really felt, which was great and actually blissful and joyful. And I didn't feel any of all of that drama. I felt kind of disconnected from all of the drama and joyful and happy, like, and also a witness. So that's when I met my natural consciousness, and I kind of clicked into that. And then right when that occurred, I found myself again sitting with awareness across from this Native American chief, and he hands me a pipe, and it's a stick, and it has like a snake's tongue on one end, and then it's slender, and he sort of intends for me to bring it to my lips, so I do, and I inhale like maybe we're at a ceremony or prayers pipe ceremony, and all of a sudden I feel a burning sensation in my heart, like I'm being ripped from talons from an eagle at the same time, and also a sledgehammer from the inside. Like the ripping and the pounding and the heat all at once are going on inside of my heart. And I'm like, I'm kind of like having a somatic freak out overload experience. And then um, the doorbell rings in my waking world, in the waking world. And I sit bolt upright in bed and I'm like, and so all of that experience that was in the dream comes right with me, completely lucid. And I go to the window and I look down from the second floor at the door and there's no one there. But I'm kind of in this like still just awakened dream stupor. And I walk around and I realize I'm hearing music. And so I'm trying to find out where it's coming from. And I go downstairs, I go to the window. I notice when I look out the window that the sound kind of changes, and I'm not quite sure why. And then I think to myself, am I going crazy? And I go into a bathroom that has no windows, and I shut the door, I turn off the light, and I'm like, I can still hear the music. But then I realize that I'm hearing it from the inside, that it's coming from in my heart, and I'm feeling the vibration of everything that's around me, and it's not something that I can hear with my ear, but it's penetrating me on a level that makes me feel like there's a symphony going on inside, and I can hear the music from that symphony. And then I realize it's the soul of everything around me that I am perceiving like song. Because this Native American spirit ripped open, helped me open my heart chakra to the degree that I could feel and perceive everything within my heart, uh, and feel the soul of everything communicating with me through my heart. And the word shaman means to see in the dark or to see with the heart. And ultimately it's a perceiving the vibration, the song of the soul of everything, and everything in existence has its own song.
So, how does love come in? Sound of Love Conference.
Yeah. Yeah. How does love come in? Well, that's a question that for me, I see in a couple of different ways. The first answer is love comes in when the heart is open, and then the love that is always there, that is meant to fill us up like a wellspring without end, comes right through us and into life. So, love comes through us, is meant to come through us so that we our heart allows the soul to come through and press itself into the physical realm to ensoul everything, bringing love to life, which is what we are an instrument meant to do. Of course, it also comes in when we are able to connect with that same source of love that is also in every other person. And even if the heart of another person is not quite open because it is in a mode of protection, you can still find within the being where the soul is residing and speak to that, speak to the soul, and it quickens the feeling of love and home within the body, within the being, and helps to feel helps the other to feel like you're really speaking to who they really are and giving permission for them to be who they really are. And it quickens, elicits a response in them that allows them to soften and feel seen. Sometimes, sometimes not at first and not always because there might be layers of trauma, but it's always the case that in any case, this is the way to speak to anybody is to speak to what is already whole, that is always whole within them, lovingly.
I,
And
th-
then, yeah.
I think that's the most important lesson that needs to be learned on the planet, to really be able to see that light, that love, that soul of that person that is pure, perfect, purely perfect in every way.
When we are able to see that within ourselves, it's easier
Mm.
to see that within others. And also, um, I think sometimes when we're on a path of healing, we feel like if we look at that which is not quite perfect, that we want to improve or to heal, that then we will find healing there. We will heal that aspect of ourselves and we will get better. But the problem with that is that once you pull on that thread, there's another thread to find and another thread to find. And so you can find all of the threads of this lifetime and then there's last lifetime and this is endless. So, some of that, but really to find that which has never been touched by anything less than love and in ourselves and to speak to that within the other to quicken it because it's it's life recognizing life. Life life knows life. Love knows love. And when we can be in recognition with one another in that field of love, we're really healing the mind and then we're healing the body and the life experience follows naturally.
You ready to do some sound?
Yay! Yeah,
Cool. Just 1 second.
Recording in progress.
great. So what I'm going to offer for you, David, today is an intention for soul retrieval, which is to go on a journey myself where I can perceive any soul parts that have been fragmented from where you are in present time. That can also maybe be where you may be still connected in a past lifetime. And sometimes things come back, sometimes aspects are not ready. There might be a power animal that arrives. So the first uh, the first guiding principle for me is whatever wants to happen will. So I'm going to go into the experience and whatever wants to happen will. Okay. Okay. So you can close your eyes. Also, I usually suggest that you place your focus in your heart and imagine that there is a flower inside of your heart, and and then move your awareness through that flower into a field of flowers, and then just follow affinity, whatever feels like it's calling to you. So you allow yourself to unfold sort of spontaneously in this journey. Okay. Hey, yo, yo, hey. Oh, hey, hey. So, in the beginning of this journey, I began creating a sacred circle around myself, around where I'm at in my home, connecting with the earth and the heavens and the spirits of the land. And then I moved to where you are, David, and I did the same thing. And then I created a connection, a bridge. So that was just laying a foundation in the beginning. And then it was sort of a call to, you could say, the gods and goddesses, asking what was wanted most in this moment for yourself in the way of healing. And actually, what happened was I didn't find myself going away on a journey to find something, but rather I found myself going into your heart. And I saw a diamond, uh, and I was drawn to go inside the diamond that is your heart and to sort of create not more softness, but I'm sorry, not more clarity. Uh, like like sometimes people's heart needs to be like the windows are a little they have got spots and you kind of have to like clear. And that wasn't really the case for you. It was more like there was clarity, but there was a certain kind of like if you were to if you were to create like a if you were to say a sound, the echo would be sharp, like the resound, the way it would hit the walls would be sharp. And what was wanted was a little bit more give inside of the jewel, the diamond that is your heart, so that there could be breath, greater like elasticity without also losing structure. Um, and so what wanted to happen was like this swirling and this sensation of just creating levity and softness. And then an eagle came. Now, in the spirit realm, I shapeshift into an eagle. That's sort of my greatest totem, a white eagle, which actually was the the wings that wrapped around me as a child. As I walked forward in my life, I became aware that this actually was me as an eagle, and that I would learn how to shapeshift into the eagle. But that's not what came. What came was a golden eagle, very much a golden eagle, and very much wanted to descend into your heart and be a power ally for you. So this eagle came into your heart in this swirling motion, and I took some time to breathe into my heart and connect with the eagle, and to breathe into your heart and to transfer the eagle through the bridge that had been created to you. And then it was like a million eagles kind of were flying around where you are, and they were caretaking you. Like like it had something to do with breath, breath outside, breath inside, breath outside, breath inside, and then this golden feeling and the diamonds. It was very um, elemental with mineral beings, as well as the like the consciousness of the diamond, the consciousness of gold, and then the power and vision of this golden eagle, all bringing what coalesced into a feeling of protection on one hand, and also softness. Yeah, yeah. And so, and then there was just a saying thank you to the beings that came. And at the very end, there was this aspect of you from childhood, about 7, that came forward that said, "Oh, me too. Oh, no, me too." It was like, "No, no, wait, me too. I'm ready." And then I saw you as this young person, having a feeling, an emotion that was just like that, like a part of you as a child experiencing somebody that wanted to play and participate. And actually, that was a feeling that kind of like stuck with you as, maybe trauma is too strong of a word, but as a feeling like an aspect that wanted to be included and wanted to, be asked to come along and be a part of things, but maybe got overlooked. Because I recognized at first, I was just like, oh, and then I recognized, no, actually, this was kind of like a stuck feeling that wanted to, go into the softness of the heart that we had just made for you. And so let's just breathe that in together for a minute and welcome that aspect of yourself into you. And of course, inviting that young child within you to play and to participate, even today, even in the work that you do, even when you're speaking to thousands of people, this part of you wants to be a part of what's happening. So,
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow. So, when you first started, I immediately teared up, right? Immediately. And then my Native American being Eagle Heart came in.
there you go.
Right? And
There you
then and then it got really soft and it got down to me, which is just me separate from, you know, all the stuff in the world. And and the main message I got was kind of what you've been talking about, which is really how easily we get entrained into wanting to be accepted completely, right? And realizing, no, I'm not even no, it was just, here I am. I'm here. This is me. This is my vibration. This is my breath. This is me. Right? Not separate, but just me. And it's so interesting because what I started thinking about, which is important, is we are communal beings. So we do want to be accepted, right? We want to be a part of the group, which you're just from ever since I was 7, right? And but you've got to be whole on your own. But you'll never. There's this aspect where we're all one, but you got to. It's like you got to be whole on your own.
Well, even a symphony is made of instruments that are who they are. The oboe is not the clarinet. The drum is, there's not this hi-hat, the bass drum's not the hi-hat. And yet, being all who they are, they blend to create something more than what they are. And when we say we are all one, this is more of what we all are. We are all one song, but we are also our own song. And what I have found most important above everything else, working as a shaman and just working as an empowered person in the world who seeks to stay in attunement to love in order to help others, is that knowing the way that my soul sounds, tastes, feels, resounds is the most important thing, is the most important thing to actually being able to help anybody else and to stay safe myself.
Right. Right. Often think of it as an actual frequency. I mean, that's tied into your metabolism even. It's definitely a energy, and it can be a sound or a frequency or a pitch. It could be a song.
I feel each person's soul as a song that doesn't have just one note. It has a blending. It's a blending of many notes, and it has a melody, and it's like a whole Mozart. It's a Shakespeare sonnet and a Mozart symphony all at once, that feels just like only that person and no one else.
May we all find our soul song.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to share?
Um,
Is there anything, any sound we can do for everybody on the planet?
well, you know, one way to find your soul song, um, this is just one way. It's how I started, is to feel your heart and how your heart feels, and then try to make the sound of how your heart feels. So you give it a try.
Oh, it's an easy one. Om Om
So since you're so good at this, David, I'm gonna challenge you just a little bit,
Okay.
in a shaman way. So now you have that, and so say you are in your space and you want to acknowledge the other spiritual beings that are around you where you are. So you want to acknowledge them, and then you want to invite them to look at your heart with nothing in the way, so that you're showing yourself to them in kind of a prostration, so that they can know your intention. Okay? So you do it with the same sound. So you start with the heart sound, and then you say hello, and then you invite them to look at you and your intentions. Okay? So try that just with
Okay.
sound.
Okay.
And now just add thank you. Add it. Now
Just-
just say thank you.
that was the thought in my head when you
Yeah,
said
yeah. Now,
Pew.
now the next thing to say is thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
So what I have found is
Wow.
that everything in life communicates, and everything in life loves to be communicated to, especially lovingly with kindness. And the beings that are always around us are so willing to engage, but first we have to be willing to reveal ourselves. And the sound, doing it with sound, with song, it transcends any language. It goes right to feeling, tone, direct. There's nothing to hide. It's just right there. So powerful. So powerful.
Nice.
I could feel that. I could feel all that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now see you have more of an intimate feeling right now with where you
Hmm.
are.
Uh-huh. Oh, it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Sound hug. You.
Thank you. Thank you for this interview and for all the work you're doing, David.
Yeah. Thank you.